Hello, everyone, and thank you again to join us in the sixth webinar of OPAI, Ordinary People Achieving Impact. So today we will talking about meaningful community engagement, and we already have our two speakers in here, Minsha from Picha Eats and Luki Tafianto from Sustainator. And also, we already have our lovely moderator, Isha Ramtan, that will moderate this session. And if any attendees having any question, please put in the chat below. And this is came with the sponsor from the Robert Bosch Alumni Network and AAC Berlin. So furthermore, let me to give the time for our lovely moderator, Irshad, to moderate this session.
Thanks so much, Bandri. So, hi everyone. So my name is Irshad. I will be the moderator for today's session. So just a very short note about OPAI. So we are actually exploring ways of how ordinary people can achieve impact. And these people that we're looking at may or may not be running organizations of their own. So today is a very special topic that we'll be talking about, and we'll be talking about meaningful community engagement. So with me today, I have two very lovely speakers. So we have Loki from Indonesia, and we have Minsha from Malaysia. Correct, Malaysia, yes. I'll be giving, oh, my video is spotlighted. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'll be handing the time over to them to give us a quick overview of the organizations that they represent and what is their role within the organization. So maybe, Loki, do you want to start first?
I think Mincha first.
Okay, Mincha, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Hello everyone. So my name is Mincha, and I'm from Malaysia. So I'm with Picha Eats currently, and in Picha Eats, I am basically a community builder. So I remember that when I first joined the company, I was wondering what is a community builder, right? So in Picha Eats, what we do is we connect with refugee chefs in Malaysia, who's from a variety of countries, include Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Palestine, and we sell food. And we do food delivery, we do catering, and we also do ready-to-heat meals. And so the whole idea is so that when these refugees, they are in Malaysia, they actually facing this issue where they are not allowed to work legally because Malaysia is not a signatory of UN convention. So with these restriction or limitations, we also find that there is this potential of them actually being able to serve really great food and really authentic dishes from their own home country as well. And that's how Picha Eats happened. And so far, it's our 4th year running Picha Eats. And I have been with the company since about 2 years ago. So my role is a lot to do with actually onboarding the chef, communicating with the chef, and also making sure that they are being well taken care of in terms of like well-being, or like when it comes to they need certain equipments when it comes to cooking. So yeah, this is what Picha Eats does in Malaysia. All right.
Thanks so much, Mincha. So Loki, what about you?
Yeah. Hi everyone. So my name is Luki. I'm from Indonesia. I'm from the Sustainator. Actually, Sustainator is the initiative that my wife and I run, but it's still on the idea stage. But for today, I will talk more on my full-time work. I work in Systemic. It's an environmental consultant company, and now we are running a waste management program in Indonesia. It's called Stop Project. It's related also with my previous work before I joined Systemic. So it's the same waste management project, but now it's in Stop. We have a framework, system change framework. So we want to make sure that the waste management service in one city can run sustainably. So yeah, our goal is to stop the plastic leakage to the ocean. So that's why we are building a MRF, a material recovery facility in one city, but not just building the MRF, but also doing the behavior change campaign. And then on the regulation things, we also tap into that. Also the collection. So we want to make a system change so that when we not left kind of when we hand over the project to the local government, it still can run sustainably. Yeah, I think that's what I did.
Understand. So it's interesting. So we have two speakers, one of whom works in the space of providing employment opportunities to people who generally are disallowed from working in the country, and one kind of looks at uh, the waste management issue as a whole, as well as like how to solve it from a systemic as well as a behavior level. So I wanted to actually have an open question to the both of you. What does community kind of mean to you within the context of your work?
Okay. So actually, this is something where people ask us a lot as well, or ask me, because with the title of community builder, right? So what exactly do you mean, and actually what do you do? And a lot of time, what I tell people is, I eat a lot. Because it's a food business. So in this case, when you're liaising with community, it's really all about all the way from you testing the food, and then you also do market tests with the chef, and then you need to be able to evaluate whether or not it's a good dish, and then bring it to the client. And probably this cycle will never stop, right? Because you always has new menu coming out. And yes, in short, towards I eat, but on something that I would say with different stakeholders coming in. So how we see a community in Picha is actually besides these mothers, a lot of time it's mother refugee chef that we are partnering with. That's one community, but also we are actually working very closely a lot with, like, let's say university, I would say youth, or like young people who genuinely has heart, or like has the interest to learn more about social entrepreneurship, or to actually want to kickstart something. So to us, this is also very, very important, because of what we realize in Malaysia, or I would say probably it's something very common in Southeast Asia, but then again, it really put us into a situation where we think, okay, when we were a bunch of students and we are trying to kickstart the business, what kind of challenges that we faced, right? And then in that case, how can we bring this learning experience back to this the same person who is also trying to kickstart a business when they are still student, or like when they still have very limited resources. So in Picha, the community include all the way from people that actually partnering with us, our refugee chef, and up until like our customers, who really are what we call as Picha heroes, because essentially without them buying the food, technically the business would exist, it's not going to sustain. And then also up until students, or like I would say young people that are trying to champion a social cause, because this is very important, because only when there are more people coming on board and trying to use business as a way to address a social issue, then the public will start seeing that, oh, this is something doable. This is something that, I can be a part of. And how can I be a part of it? It doesn't mean that I have to start something. It could be I actually support someone by buying, by recommendation. So all of these build up the community in Picha Eats at the end of the day. Yep.
So it's fascinating because within that one word community, like not only is there a wider mission of trying to not say empower, but like provide opportunities to people who are refugees who don't necessarily have that opportunity to have gainful employment, but within that large community, there are like sub communities in and of itself. So later on, like I do want to dig into like each of those individual communities, but before we do that, Loki, like what about you? Like my sensing as well is that from your previous answer, there are also some subgroups that you're looking at. Like, do you want to tell us more about what community means to you?
Yeah, I think for the community in general, I think people around us we can learn from in terms of what we did in waste management project in Stop, we targeted the urban and the rural people there, the urban and rural community, because they have a different characteristic. But the thing is that there is this one cases that I think I answer that we can learn from the community is that when we did social mapping back in last year, and we asked about do you know what type the type of the waste, and the answer is that for organic is God created materials, and for the non-organic waste is a human created materials. So I find it is interesting because sometimes in community they have their own language to say about things, like and then that's why when we later address those community, we might use those terms because that's what community known well about. If we use another term, it might confuse them to do the separation kind of that things.
Interesting. So, on the one hand, there's a separation between like urban communities and rural communities, and another thing that you brought up is that like within these individual communities, like there's certain lingo and certain ways that they refer to like the different types of waste that actually comes up that your organization, or rather the people in your organization, actually pick up so that you can actually have that closer rapport to them. So I wanted to actually follow up with the next question of what represents meaningful engagement of the different communities. And I also wanted to expand on whether or not there are other key stakeholders that enable this meaningful engagement beyond just the people that, for example, you're trying to do behavior change on. You also mentioned that the local government is a key player. So how do the different pieces come together, and what do you think is meaningful engagement beyond speaking the specific lingo?
Yeah, like what I said, we are using a framework of system change. So that's why we try to do a bottom up, but also top down. So we are on the bottom up. We're targeting the community. We want to know what is their voice regarding the waste management service, and then in terms of the top down, how to make sure that the community voice is heard, and also the local government make sure that the service should be provided for all. So like in terms of the meaningful one, I think when the community and also the local government itself has a self-belonging to the waste management service, things that the community are aware that they need this waste management service, and also that if they don't have this waste management service, the future of themselves or their kids, their grandkids, their grandchildren, grandchildren will be disrupted with all of the waste that they will face in the future. So that's why when we go to the community, first of course we have to learn from them first. That's why in the beginning we did a social mapping one, because we want to know the characteristic of the community. And then when we try to roll out our implementation, like starting the collection to the community, we want to make sure that when the community separate their waste, we will not mix their waste again in our collection vehicle. So that's why in our collection vehicle, we have a separate container. Like we divided the one container, but have two different color to make sure that it is a color coded, and make sure that when the community separate their waste, we put it in the same category like where they separated. And yeah, I think that's it.
Understand. So before I go over to Minxia, like I do want to ask a final follow up to that. So one of the things that you do is you social map in order to understand the existing system and the way of doing things. And as a company, you are there to implement like a new system for them to actually manage the waste better. So beyond the more positive side of like getting community buy-in and like getting them to actually go ahead with the plan that you're proposing, how does meaningful community engagement look like when it comes to people that are pushing back against the solution that you're creating? Like, do you have any anecdotes or stories that you can tell about some challenges that you faced when trying to push a new solution within a community?
Yeah, actually, like when there is a pushback, we always try to discuss it with the community. So that's why we held gatherings, community gatherings. But in this COVID situation, actually, it's a bit hard. So, but we try. So we are being creative on that because we want to make sure that we are following the protocol, the COVID protocol. But also we want to make sure that we have a space where we can have a discussion with the community. So we have a community gathering for our piloting that already started last July. So that's we limited the gatherings to 20 people. So on this discussion or gathering, we discuss about how our collection system will be going, how we will process the waste, and also how like the pushback sometimes coming from the the collection fee, because we also have to charge the community so that the waste management service can run sustainably, because it's not just about giving a free service to them, but also having them paid so that they have self responsible on the waste that they generate. So that's why sometimes the pushback coming from the collection fee. And when the things that we want, we try to resolve on that is that we have a discussion on that, and we break down the cost. Like for example, we charge 30,000 rupiah, and then we break down the part of those cost breakdown of those 30, like to for the worker who sort the waste, or the process to process the waste in the MRF, and also the collection, the driver cost, the fuel cost, and also to the electricity cost, all of that, so that the community can understand about those 30. It's not just it's also about the transparency, giving transparency to the community, so that we can gain the trust of the community. So yeah, I think that's what we did for to make sure that the community buy in about our project, to make sure that when they have a concern about our project, let's sit down and discuss about it.
Interesting. So at the end of the day, it really just boils down to communication and transparency in these kind of difficult situations.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to head over to Mincha because I haven't asked her any like some questions for a while. So Mincha, like I wanted to dig a little bit more into the students that you mentioned. First of all, because one thing that you mentioned with regards to community engagement for the people producing the food is that you engage in a lot of like eating lah, essentially, and like working with them to maybe curate a menu and to determine like what should be included, what shouldn't be included. So that one is like is meaningful in and of itself. I wanted to dig into what you actually meant by okay, how about, let me rephrase that. Like for students, right? If they are interested in social entrepreneurship as a whole, and what are the key messages that you try to put across to them, and what are some tangible things that you do to ensure some meaningful level of engagement with these students?
Right. Okay, so maybe just to share a bit on that case itself. So Picha, when Picha it's first started, we actually joined so not myself, the co-founder team, joined a accelerator program organized by Magic, which essentially it's a government body, but they also have people that is I would say at the end what their goal is to encourage on entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship. So I think a lot of times whether or not entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurship will boom, it has a lot of factors into it. First, of course, it has to go back to like how government support these small enterprises, and then the second, to me, it's actually how widely public are actually want to support or like really see this as a business rather than just a charity. So then in this case, in order to achieve that, we also believe that we can't just go on and tell people, okay, you know, we are trying to help the community, you should come and help us. It's more on like a sympathetic angle, like, okay, you should buy this because they are very because you don't get the equal opportunity, blah blah blah, things like that, which to us, yes, this might be able to work, but it won't be able to sustain long. And coming back to the question where how do we see students playing a role in this? At the end of the day, it's I think the purpose of this is to really curate or like to really be able to help to set up an environment where people appreciate business coming in to address social problem, right? So then in this case, which is how social entrepreneurship can play a very big role. But at the same time, there's no point to wait for, you know, government or like I would say bigger corporates to take actions. Like in the end, you'll just be like just waiting and waiting. So to us, what we see, how can we play a part in this is, we also help the enterprises to actually be able to identify what are their challenges, especially at the starting phase, because only when we are able to share our learnings, because we have been there, like we have tried certain things maybe, or like we have tried this, it doesn't work, but we have tried that, yes, it works. So these are the learnings that we see we can share to the others, which a lot of time it includes students or like fresh grad who are trying to start their own business, and they're very willing to, or like they're very willing to open to explore entrepreneurship or social entrepreneurship. So and then again, it comes back to a lot of people would ask, right? How does it relate to you, Pizza Eats, as a food business? So in this case, we really see this as like a long-term game, where imagine if later on it becomes a norm for people to think about social problem and business together. People don't see it against each other. People see that social enterprise, oh, okay, great. Like it already become a norm. In this case, it will really help all social enterprises to be able to sell better or like thrive better. But before that, there has to be a lot of work in like trying to explain to people, okay, this social enterprise, this will be how the model could look like. And yeah, so I would say we are trying our best, probably like very bit by bit. But that's how we see we can also be part of it. Yeah.
Understand. So it seems like the meaningfulness of the engagement with the students, especially those that are looking to set up their own social enterprise or like do a little bit of business for good, is on the one hand having that supportive element where you're just like, yes, we want to be there for you, and at the same time like communicating common pitfalls so that they don't fall into the same thing over that you guys did, and hopefully they would not make the mistake. Although if I were to inject my own opinion, like sometimes making the mistake is the learning process in itself. But so moving from that, like beyond like supporting students who want to start social enterprises, like one very interesting thing that I got from your previous sharing was that you refer to your customers as Picha heroes. So talk to me a little bit about like how exactly do you create a meaningful engagement, given that like for customers sometimes it's just a one, like it may be a transaction. Like how do you make it more than just a transaction?
Right. Yeah. So I think what we are trying to avoid here is a transactional relationship, because you want them to actually be involved with the community. Although they are not the one who meet the community, they don't pick up the food, they don't actually meet them face to face. In terms of the chef who prepare their food, but basically the reason that we call them Pizza Heroes is, I mean, we started out as like a very small F&B. And like we don't really have halal certification, things like that, which which in Malaysia, sometimes people do look at that, especially when it comes to like corporates or like companies. But in this case, I have to say a lot of it come from trust, especially at the first purchase. So when I say trust, it means that they trust that, okay, we can deliver them the food. What if, we could have FFK, we take the money, we go FFK and say, oh, I can't do the catering. And then the second is we trust that the food is actually clean and it's edible, because a lot of people would say, oh, refugees, how do we ensure that the quality is there, things like that. So then all this, this initial trust-based relationship really is the reason that they are our heroes, because we understand that without them first placing this amount of trust to us and placing that order, then it's actually like, obviously the business just wouldn't be able to run at all. And then how do we continue to, I would say, develop that trust-based relationship? Is of course, in terms of PR, we make sure that our QC is being done well. So you need to have great product, right? In order to bring that service to the clients. And then in our case, we also make sure that the storytelling part is done well as well. Because I mean, wouldn't deny that at these days, a lot of people like to know or like to really read about stories. And I would say that when they are being brought on a journey that they enjoy, or seeing, let's say they bought from this chef, and then this particular chef actually able to use the money and send the kids to school, or like can clear up the debt. So all of this is how the customers are actually journey together with the refugee chef that we have. So although they don't meet each other, but we try to put them onto a journey that you are together with the community, or this is exactly the impact that we are making. We give a very transparent business model. I mean, we share our business model everywhere on the website, when we go sharing, things like that. So it's a 50-50% model. The client will know exactly how much are they giving back to the community. And so in this case, they will be able to tell that, this is how much of the impact that I have made to a certain refugee chef. So this is how we basically maintain our relationship with what we call as pizza heroes, which is also our customers.
So that's fascinating. So what you basically highlighted, and basically a common thread between what Loki shared and what you're sharing, is that transparency and communication is still very much key to maintaining that relationship. But at the same time, for you, like, there's an added layer whereby the presence of trust is actually inbuilt into the purchasing mechanism, whereby people need to actually take that leap of faith to engage with you guys first, and that's where the relationship actually starts, rather than it being a support this, like everything else is covered. Like, it's really just like you need to trust first, and that's really fascinating to me. So I want to move on to the next question, and Mincha, like I do want to ask this to you first because it kind of follows up. Like, do you have any interesting anecdotes of like how so the original question is basically like interesting anecdotes about the value of community. I do want to bring it to this specific point of like the pizza heroes. Like, is there any interesting results of that transparency that you've actually baked in? You guys have actually baked into the model. Like, like for example, did anyone like kind of reach out, or like was there any organic like meeting up that happened as a result of that like relationship that you managed to forge, even though they can't see each other? Like, just want to know your thoughts.
Yeah. Okay, I hope I'm answering this correctly. But so for us, right, initially what we thought of is so people were asking, how can I be a part of your social cause? And then that's when we tell them, oh, you know what, you can buy our food. If you have a meeting, then you can get a catering. If you have like a home party, then you can get a mini buffet sets, things like that. But eventually, people actually are more curious on wanting to meet the refugee chef in person. What is interesting to me is that actually allow us to open up another opportunity, business opportunity, which is we host these people into a refugee chef house. So this is what we call as open houses. Of course, we don't do it now at this moment because of COVID situation and all. Yeah. So we have these pizza experiences. We call it basically it can come in many different kind of format. It could be in the refugee house itself, or it could also be at a very curated space, and then they come in more as a storyteller. And of course, it also has their food. So it will, I mean, I guess to me, it's like when people are curious to know more besides the food itself, and then it brings to the point where, oh, actually I want to meet with the person, and I want to be able to hear more from the chef herself. And I like to also, actually interact with them to find out more from them. How's your life like? How is it like in Malaysia to you? Is there anything else that you see that could have Malaysians to be of help as well, things like that. So yeah, if I have to say one thing that I find it interesting, is actually on how this also help us to open up another business opportunity. And at the same time, what we didn't realize, or like what really surprised us is, when we first started doing it, we thought that it was just from an idea where we have always been eating with our refugee chef, like during special occasion, like Christmas, Raya, that kind of like bigger big days, right? And I think there's this one day that we thought, okay, so boring. It's always been like us and the chef. So we'll be seeing the same face again and again, like very boring. So let's bring a friend. And then that's when a few friends came, and then they're like, oh, this is such a great experience. You should try to promote it out. And yeah, that's how it happened. And what's really surprises is when people come, and they see this as a very transformative experience, because it allows them to see a different side of KL, a different side of people, people that are usually only like appear on like the news because refugee, right? And they never expect that, oh, in a very common condominium, one of the houses is them actually staying in there, living like a very normal life, and there's no camp and all. It's really just like a like anyone, or like anyone, like you and like me, basically. And also they have to find jobs, they have to find schools for their kids. So technically it's like same, but at the same time they have went through such a different journey as compared to everyone of us as well. So to them it's a very interesting story to hear, and it's even more interesting that come from the chef themselves. So yeah. This is something that I find it quite interesting.
Fascinating. And I think to me, what I find interesting is that this process was kind of organic, in the sense that like it wasn't like some grand plan that was architectured. It's more, oh, okay, like there's this connection. Let's further that connection. Let's see how that goes. And like it kind of snowballed into not what's happening now because COVID, like unfortunately, but I find that very fascinating. Thanks so much for sharing that. And Loki, what about you? Like I think for you, like, is there any other interesting anecdotes that like I didn't manage to cover in some of the other questions that I raised up in the past? Like any interesting stories that you found that you kind of want to share with the audience?
Actually, like I agree with what Mincha shared. I also want to add regarding what we did here is that we hired a local people so that we can create a connection with the customer or with the community. So because what we found is that sometimes our collection driver has built a connection with the community when he pick up the waste. So from that we can get the trust from the community that, oh yeah, I know this person, and yeah, this job is very useful for us. And also if the we kind of build the system where when the community, like one household has a feedback to the system, to our service, they can contact the facilitator. So with like, so I try to explain it in a more detail, because so it, like for example, in our piloting, we targeted one village, and in here in one village we have like we call it Banjar in here. So we focus on Banjar because it actually the same with neighborhood, or RT or RW in Indonesia. So it's kind of a community consists of maybe 10 to 15 household, and then the RW is consists of several RT. So it's kind of that things. But in here in Bali, we have Banjar that have like maybe around 100 to 150 household in the community. And in there, we have a 100 household to be served for the waste management service, and we target and we have a three facilitator that coming to the household every week to monitor the separation and also to check if there is feedback from the community. If, like for example, if the community have a challenge on the separating waste, like if they still do not understand how to separate the waste, like they still confuse this plastic should go to where, or this material should go to where. So that's why we have this system where the facilitator come to the the house every week to do the monitoring, and if they have feedback, they can give it to the facilitator, and then we can discuss it, and we kind of have those one-on-one session with those households that have a feedback to us, to so that yeah, again, it's kind of how to make sure that the communication channel is there, and when they have a feedback, they can their voice is heard, and we can take action on that feedback so that we can gain trust from the community itself.
So interesting. So beyond just the facilitators, like there are also collectors that are around, that are part of that system. And the interesting thing is that like trust is kind of inbuilt in the system because each of them have a part to play. But beyond that part, like there's an organic connection that's being made. And on the part of the facilitator, them being on the ground actually facilitates like the community effort to actually get this system up and running properly. Okay, that's very cool. So I am going, oh, wait, Loki, do you wanted to add something to that, or? Okay, okay. So I'm gonna shift the tone of the conversation a little bit to slightly more high level and moving away from your individual organizations. But for those in the audience, like if there's any questions that you want to ask, I have the question and answer panel open. So I will slot these questions in as and when like the questions do come in. But if there are no questions yet, the next few questions are going to be a little bit more personal and philosophical. So just mentally prep for that a bit. So the first one that I wanted to ask that is a little bit of a transition from the specific to the philosophical is whether you have any core principles or core beliefs about all these ordinary people creating an impact. So this question, you can either answer it in terms of like the organization that you represent, or like from a personal overall point of view when you interact with people and you're trying to get people to create an impact. So are there any philosophies that you have about people creating an impact? So if you guys need some time to think, that's all right. But whoever's ready, like you can just unmute yourself.
Yeah,
I see Loki unmuting
I
himself.
can go first.
Sure.
So for that, the people, ordinary people creating impact is that the first thing that we have to think about is that who is the audience that we want to target the impact for? Who is the audience that we want to impact, because that's important. And then from that, we have to again study about our audience. Like for example, the community. We have to know about the community. I have this the subject in the university that I think it's very useful for my life and also for my career now, is that the subject called human-centered design. So when we focus on the users that we want to impact, so our solution or the things that we want to impact to them is that will be create with them, not just for them. Because I have a engineering background, and sometimes as an engineer, we always think that, okay, I think this solution will be suitable for the community. But the thing is that sometimes the community will not use it because the solution, the community didn't understand about how it works, what is the problem, kind of that thing. So that's why when we try to impact on the community or the users that we want to impact, build the solution with the users. These things that I always try to do in every initiative that I had. Like for example, in Sustainator itself, since it is still in the idea stage and we targeted the small medium enterprises, we always try to talk with the SMEs to learn about what their needs, what they need to do, what is their problems and what they need to solve the problem. And then we try to build the solution with them so that they will use those solution, not just we design the solution and then they use it. Because if we go with that framework, most of the time the solution will not work for the community or for the users itself.
Cool. So your core philosophy is first and foremost like human centricity, but beyond that, like an added layer to your core principle is that it should be a process of building with rather than building for specific users. Okay, yeah, that's straightforward and super important, which I would also argue that like a lot of people sometimes forget because sometimes we feel that we think we know better. So Mincha, like hold on, like everything okay on your end? Like, can you hear us?
Yeah, all good now.
All right, no worries. Hope everything's okay, yo. All right,
Mhm.
so for Loki, he kind of answered that human centricity and like build participatory design is like the core principle that like he feels people should have when they are trying to create an impact. I wondering whether you have another point of view about core principles.
Mm. Yeah, I think what Loki mentioned is definitely very true. Because it might also be very close to what I'm just about to share, or which actually for us, I would say don't really fall in love or like too much into your solution. What do I mean by that is and also just a very quick example would be during COVID time. So what happened is in Picha, actually about 60 to 70% of our sales is from catering, right? We do buffet catering for events, for big companies, for corporates. So obviously during COVID, things like this are just gone. Like there would be events, there would be and in fact people don't even travel out of house, so that on the B2B sales is definitely like down. So in this case, if we are too much into what we have been developing and we really hold so strong on like, hey, you know what, our product is catering now, and I'm not willing to change, and I no matter what, I want catering to happen. So in this case, it will most likely cause really like the pain on the community side, right? Because you won't have the sales, and obviously a lot of community are sort of like relying on the business to have income, and that helps them a lot. So in this case, what we really reassess strong at as a company, we also try to understand what the community can offer. So in this case, we sort of keep ourselves like very disciplined in a way where we think we try to force ourselves to be creative, and we think that okay, with food what else can be done, and that's how Picha has a new product that is sort of like an MCO baby, which is ready to heat meals. So the idea is since everyone is stay in the house, so then we launched this product ready to heat meal where the refugees still prepare the food, but except that the process is a little bit different, and it's actually chilled meals or like frozen meals where our customer can store it in the house, and it can be stored up to 3 months. If in solution where you combine the skill set of the community plus. So I would say that one key principle in PCHA that we always practice is really listen to the customers and listen to the community, so that you know, okay, how do we match the interests of both sides, and how do we match the needs of both sides. And us really is as someone like a mediator or like the middle person who is trying to enable our customer to who want to also do good and enjoy great food to have a channel, to have a platform. So yeah, so that's how I see like our core principle in PCHA Eats when it comes to community.
Fascinating. So generally at the core, the whole, I wouldn't say problem, but like the main mission that you guys are going for is to ensure the continued provision of employment opportunity for like refugees that are living in Singapore.
Right.
But it's more a case that it's super important either as an organization or as individuals to not hold too tightly to a particular approach or particular solution. I have to say that the term MCO baby is not one that I've heard before. Oh, yeah, Daniel. I think I meant to say Malaysia, so sorry about that. Yeah. So for those not familiar with the term MCO, MCO kind of stands for Movement Control Order, which is basically the would you consider it a hard lockdown, or like how, like just to sidetrack a bit, like it's a partial lockdown.
Yes.
Okay, understand. Okay, so I kind of want to go on to one even more philosophical question, which we ask every session. We've had 6 sessions so far, and like we've asked it for every one of them. Do you guys feel that people around, so beyond just the people in your community, but do you guys feel that people are inherently looking to create impact? And if so, why? If not, why not?
I go first?
go
Your question is,
first.
do I feel that people are do I feel that people are actually into creating an impact, is it?
So like are people inherently looking to like create the impact? Yeah. So do people care? Do people not care? That, yeah.
I see. Okay. I think I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, which to us, to PCHA, of course a lot of time people want to do good, right? Whether or not I do good just for myself to feel good, or whether or not I do good just because I have something to share with my peers or anything like that. But if you ask me if people genuinely want to do good, I guess it's a yes. But at the same time, people also have a lot of thoughts in them where, okay, I'm gonna wait until I reach, then only I do good, right? I'm gonna wait until I have the time, then only I do good. Then only I'll wait until like I am stable myself, like in terms of lifestyle, in terms of sustainability myself, then only I do good. So in this case, I think PCHA, what we have been trying to do is we want to sort of like challenge how people think about doing good. So doing good doesn't have to be something that you only wait until you are super rich, like billionaire, or doing good doesn't have to only happen when you are you retire already, nothing to do. I started. That's how I also believe, and that's why that's why I would say I joined PCHA as one of the team member. So still of course we do meet people where they sort of like challenge or like ask us, you know, no matter what you would to explain that why do you choose to work with refugee, or when there are also other poor community that, you know, also Malaysians, things like that, and where are you actually, is it like you are partnering with the community, or is it you are using the community to earn money, right? I mean, like, this is something super controversial. And we always try to address that, actually address that openly as well, because we always like welcome people to also ask us questions like this. It's not something that we would sort of like back away and try, like, avoid answering. So then in this case, I think what is really scary to me, personally, it's when people just think they want to do, but they are not doing anything, but they are not taking the actions, but they are not like starting something. So whether people are, like you say, care or don't care, at the end of the day, if you, to me, right, if you don't care, then okay, like, it's fine. But right, if you say you care, I would say I want to see something being done. It can be small thing, it can be big thing, but there's also a huge group of people who is more like, oh, actually I care, but you know, that to me it's more like a group where I will feel like, do you actually care or you don't care? So if I would say we try to focus on this group of people where they care, they care, like genuinely care, but at the same time they don't see either there's no reliable outlet or like channel for them to do that, or either they are just, like I say, there's a lot of like excuses per se, like no time, no money, no time, things like that. So yeah, we're trying to like target or like enable this group of people where they say, okay, if you care, then let's do something together. That's why we always try to I would say, throw out this question or challenge people. Yeah.
Wow, that is a incredibly layered response. Like, I'm so grateful for that. The challenge with like having a very layered response is that it's very, very difficult to summarize. But at the core of it, what you're mentioning is that like I would say, like, within the organization's heart and within your own heart, like, you do think that people have that intention. It's just about whether or not like they actually do something about it, or whether or not like they actually pull ahead with it. And
Yeah.
at least from an organizational point of view, what you can do is twofold. The first one is be open to like either criticism or comments where
Yeah.
people try to second guess whether or not like you're doing good, but are you doing the right kind of good? And then the second is like you do want to provide a trusted enough channel whereby people don't have to wait until they're millionaires, billionaires in order to provide the level of good that they wish to be able to provide.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. So Loki, what about you?
Yeah, I do agree with what Mija said about the impact that people are looking for. And I think these days, I think more and more people are looking for to create the impact even on uh, how they buy a product. That's why more and more social enterprise businesses are founded these days, or several years ago, because I think people try to creating impact even from buying the product that they use every day. We can see that more and more product that have a social value or environmental impact, and more businesses try to disclose their social or the environmental impact, so that their customer can feel the impact of what they buy. And I think from that things, I think that's very good, because nowadays it also impacted by how social media play a big role in our society nowadays, where we can see that, oh, you buy, like, an influencer buy a eco-friendly product, and people get inspired on that. Oh, that those product creating this impact, I think I can buy that so that I can create impact. I think from those small things, I think it is a good sign, because more and more people aware and have a sense of they can also make an impact, even from the small action like buying a product, because I think it's not a small action, but it's big action actually. And also I do agree with Sometimes people just think about how can I make an impact, and I care, but do not know how to do it. And I think more and more platform try to bridge those gap when people have those awareness but do not know how to do it. I think more and more like the fundraising platform that are well known in Indonesia, like Kita Bisa, where they uh, uh, connect or distribute the money to the beneficiaries that we think that we can impact the life of others.
So it's fascinating. So like you're kind of reinforcing the point that there's already that desire, and you've highlighted like a bunch of examples where there is the not just the avenue for people to like start business and do good, but also like as individuals, like people are already empowered to be able to do these sort of things on a more like individual, decentralized fashion. And I really enjoy this question because like it really illuminates like from your individual like experiences, right? Like what uh what kind of hope we can expect from like people out there lah. So like it's super uh enlightening and also hopeful, which makes me regret asking it first, because like the next question actually is less maybe I should swap it next time. Yeah, I'll take a note of that. But yeah, so the next question, and this is the second last question that will come from me, is a little bit, yeah, I'll just go through it. Yeah. So I wanted to ask, like, so maybe in addition to the specific issues that you guys are trying to tackle within your line of work, do you feel what do you feel in your own countries, like there's a matter of urgency where you would like to see more ordinary people like attempting to create some sort of impact?
Okay. Ordinary people creating some sort of impact. I would say the first thing is to be aware of what's happening around. Because I think a lot of times people are very much not everyone. I actually see that it's getting better and better where people enjoy learning about what other challenges are faced by other community. And it's slowly getting better because when people take the initiative to host like awareness campaign for different causes, I would say all the way from environment to for community or like to be it locals or be it international. So that's one great thing for sure. But at the same time, I'm also very I also feel like in terms of like nationwide awareness campaign, a lot of times once the awareness is being built in, then I guess the next question would be what's the call to action for all this awareness campaign. And like I would say, a lot of time people also forget that actually it doesn't matter what are the things that you are doing, whether or not it's big, it's small. It might seem like very small, but later on it could be something that could also inspire someone else to start something. So like I guess in a giving a bit of a specific example would be people don't know that actually with one catering, let's say like because in Picha our minimum packs for catering minimum value is actually 1,000 ringgit, Malaysian ringgit, and then in this case once with 1,000 ringgit, then 500 ringgit is actually going back to the family. So that is already school fees of like the children and the family itself. So then in this case, the very simple, like you just have to spend one meal with Picha and then you are already making an impact. And we're talking about like very tangible impact because it's money, right? And you are already two things. Like one is to give a voice to this community who never get their voice being heard, because every time when we sell out their product, we also write their stories on like packaging, or like if it's catering, then we put it on a signboard, things like that. So you are, one is to give them a voice, and then the second is to give them a real livelihood, because I mean, let's be realistic, right? It's really about having an income, a roof, even though very simple, very basic, you know, roof over the head, and then meals on the table. So it's really not something that you need to be extraordinary to do that. It's really like, you know, just one meal, very ordinary. I guess the concept is, you know, we eat every single day, right? So 1 month, 30 days, and we have like 3 meals in a day, unless you skip breakfast, but you still have 60 meals. So out of these 60 meals, you just take one meal, and then you choose to buy from, it doesn't have to be Picha, maybe in the future, you know, if there's more restaurants that also do good, just choose this one meal, and this is something that really ordinary people can do. And yeah, so that would be my input.
So interesting. So like I like the way I would summarize the points that you did, and feel free to say I'm wrong if I'm wrong here. But there seems to be a little bit of an empathy gap between, so like it's a little bit general because like there are a whole bunch of issues, and there's a need for people to actually understand, like on a more personal level, that like there are people affected. And what you're hopeful for is that like there are already a lot of ordinary people beyond just Picha Eats, who are actually like creating those awareness campaigns, who are actually going out to like tell all of these stories.
Yeah.
That's an incredibly optimistic answer to an incredibly pessimistic question. But anyway, thanks so much for sharing that. Loki, what about you? What do you feel?
Yeah, I think everyone has created the impact already in their life, either good or bad, big or small impact. It's just a matter of uh, how can we make sure that the good impact can be shared, and also inspired to other to do another positive impact in our life. Because like, it's just remember that our action might be small, but it matters. We never know what our one action, our one positive action that we shared in our social media, like the Instagram stories, can move the heart of one people, and then the those people can move another 3 or 5 people hearts to do the same thing. So it kind of snowball impact, like what you said, Irshad. So that it is easy that we can we have all of those media or platforms, so that we can create impact nowadays. And the areas that I think can be emphasized at this moment is like, I would say that for me personally, I would say that the mental health in this pandemic situation, where people can share, maybe even they have some, because sometimes the mental health issue, like the depression, people are afraid to say it, because like there is this stigma where people will say that when you share your depression to the public, people will say that you are insane, you are crazy, and that could make the depressed people more depressed. So I think yeah, let's just use social media, and then like use social media wisely, and not try to judge people, rather than doing good, like try to create a positive impact rather than the negative one.
Hmm. So there's a similar point that you kind of raised up with regards to like the awareness piece, but for you it's more about like having some level of okay, how do I put this? Like you would like more people to actually take the leap of faith, to actually be vocal about certain things that they might be going through, because it's one of those things where you never know that a positive snowball effect can actually result of it. And one of the specific examples that you gave, which you perhaps feel that it's a matter of urgency, is mental health, whereby it's less of a matter of like oh, you gotta hide because like otherwise people will think you're crazy, or like people will think you're gonna affect other people like in very bad ways. But it's more because of that visibility, like people will also be a little bit more comfortable in like opening up, and hopefully as a collective, like this problem can be solved a little bit better. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so I'm going to end off with like one last question, which is not philosophical, it's like super specific. So Loki, you already mentioned the point on human-centric design, but generally for both of you, do you guys have any frameworks or any resources or anything that you want to recommend to anyone watching this that actually informed your own knowledge about the social change ecosystem?
Oh, can you give like one example? What do you mean by that?
Okay, like was there a particular article that actually told you
I
about like the different
see.
roles, or like is there a podcast that you listen to where someone goes through like their stories, and like
Mhm.
I have a bunch of examples. I can send you a link. I'll send the link in the chat for my
Okay.
own personal list. But do you
Okay.
guys have anything that you guys read or listen to, or like is
Right.
there a role model that you might have that you actually look to for wisdom to actually go on within this space?
Okay. So we practice like in Picha, we actually try to encourage everyone to read. Like always have a book to read. Like there's a book list like in 1 month. You read one book, things like that. But I guess for us, we really like to see, I would say, example books like Good to Great, and also books like about more on entrepreneur. How do they build a business? All the way from like Netflix, or like Elon Musk, or Ma Yun from China. So I think these a lot of times give us different perspective on how they also had went through like the startup days. And they also, this is how they overcome it, and especially in terms of managing people. That's what we always struggle with, I would say, even in Picha, even at this point. So yeah, when it comes to management, we love books like Airbnb, and we love books like even Amazon. So it always gives different perspective of how there are processes that you like from Amazon, and then you can try to apply it. There are culture that you like from Airbnb, then you can apply it. So yeah, I would say biographies from entrepreneurs are something that we always try to refer to. So that gives some perspective from different people. Yeah.
Fascinating. So like the main within the company lah, like the main source of wisdom is really from biographies, like this sort of books,
Yeah.
where these pretty well resourced companies, like they kind of share their knowledge, and that's
Correct.
actually quite applicable to like your own organization. That's cool. So Loki, like, do you have anything else beyond human-centric design that you want to share?
Yeah, actually, like I would recommend the system change framework and also the theory of change framework. So when you try to start an initiative, try to see the theory of change, so that you know what kind of change that you want to bring in the community, and then how you're gonna impact it, so that it kind of be like your kind of Bible, like things that you see again when you run the business. Is it on the right track or not? And also the system change is that the things that the framework that we use here in my company on trying to create a waste management service that can run sustainably. So it's like we are working on the enablers, so like try to break down the system into small pieces, and then working on the enablers, like for example on the community, like the behavior change that I mentioned. We can go to that part, like break it down to like the waste management, and then the on the behavior change one, break it down into small pieces, and then I get the behavior change, and then in those behavior change topic, working on the enablers that can run when we with or without us. Like for example, create a system enablers that already there already in the current system, so that we kind of use this current system to make a change. I think that's it.
I'm probably going to ask you as a follow-up question after this call about which specific systems change framework you're using. There are quite a few, but okay. So like basically like there are three layers, like the theory of change framework, the behavioral change within that theory of change framework, and like finally like the systems change where you're kind of mapping like the different enablers and stuff. I'll ask you after the call whether you have any resources so I can share with the community later on. But anyway, yeah. So we've come to the end of the session for today. I'll thanks so much you two for like taking the time off to have a nice little conversation on a Saturday afternoon. I'll pass the time back to Ivandri to close off the session. Ivandri, please.
Okay, thank you so much for the speakers. And thank you also for Irshad that already moderating the process for this session. And uh, for any attendees that already came to this session, we will have this in the OPAI.me YouTube channel in this past week. And you guys also can see other information and other video that we already have from the first webinar until the sixth webinar in the OPAI.me channel. Please search and subscribe it in YouTube. And the next one is we will continue the next session in 2 weeks, and we will post the poster and we will email you guys again for the date. I will be in Saturday or will be in back again in Tuesday. We will talking about that in the matter of the time. So next week you guys will be get the information from us from the opai.me newsletter, and also we will inform you guys about the toolkit that opai.me already making in the process, and we will give you some little bit update about that. Thank you all for joining us in the sixth webinar of Ordinary People Achieving Impact that supported by Bosch Alumni Network and AAC Berlin. Thank you and have a good day.